Hello everyone and welcome back to the Fight Game podcast. Today I'm very, very happy to be joined by one of my best friends. I am his striking coach. It's another one of my athletes. His name is Ryder Hey. He's one of the brightest prospects in British MMA right now. He's only had one amateur fight. That's right, one amateur fight. But from the day he walked into the adults class when he was 14 years old, everyone in our gym has known that the kid's going to be special. And since he started competing on the interclub circuit, having boxing matches and kickboxing fights as well, everyone in the local area has known that this kid's going to be special. So I'm excited to get him on, talk about the journey so far, but he is also a ridiculous encyclopedia of MMA knowledge. So we talk about the fights that have just gone past this weekend between Israel Adesanya and Joe Pyfer. We talk about the White House card versus the Netflix card. And basically we talk all things MMA. This is something I'm thinking about incorporating maybe once a month, every couple of weeks. So let me know if you guys enjoy having Ryder on the pod, and maybe we'll get him on more often. So thanks for being here. I appreciate you. And thanks very much to Ryder for coming on. Enjoy the episode. So Ryder, welcome to the Fight Game podcast. In your own words, just introduce yourself.
My name's Ryder Hey. I'm an amateur MMA fighter, professional dream chaser, and I fight out of the Combat Institute in Colchester.
Yeah, so as you said there, professional dream chaser. So how old are you, Ryder?
I'm 18 years old.
18, just turned 18. What? 2 months ago
18
now?
in January. Yeah.
Crazy. And all you do is train to compete in MMA. That's right, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah, as much as I can.
Yeah, unbelievable. So, you train at the Combat Institute. We'll come on to that first. So, one of your training partners, your main training partner, I'd say, is Christian Young, who's already been on the podcast. Yeah. Our training partner, I'm a striking coach for the pair of you. So, I've spent a lot of time with you both.
Yeah.
What is it like training alongside a full-time professional athlete when you were as young as 16 and still finishing school?
Well, that's it. It's I'm very grateful for being for getting that opportunity, because that's what's inspired me and has helped me to grow so much. Like training, like I said, like we're main training partners, me and Christian. So it's since he's been elevating from amateur to pro, I've been there with him, and it's like helped me so much, seeing the lifestyle you got to live and the dedication that actually has to be put in. You know, it's helped me so much.
Also coached by two-weight Cage Warriors world champion James Webb. You've been in and amongst the gym at the Combat Institute since you were probably 13 or 14. Yeah. What's it been like having that sort of influence, seeing Webby come back from being a little bit inactive, not having the best string of results, to becoming a two-weight world champion, all while you've been developing and growing up in the gym?
Yeah, that's it. Having a coach with that much experience, you know, at like the top European level, and then with the people he's training with now, like when he trains with Aspinall and other UFC fighters, and like seeing his development in that time and how that's transferred to all of us when he's coming back and he's bringing that knowledge over, and he's showing us different things. It's so valuable. Yeah, absolutely. So we talk about your sort of come up a little bit. So you joined the gym, it's 13 or 14, am I right? I was 13, when I started in the teens MMA classes there.
Yeah, so I remember when you first joined the adult classes, and you were probably at that point 14, and I was competing for the gym. You had myself, Oz, and some big lads on the fight team as well, sort of like middleweight, light heavy lads. And then you tipped up and you were 14 and just started throwing grown men around. And straight away, people were saying like, oh, this kid's going to be really good. This kid's going to be really good. When you first got in and you joined the sort of older age groups, what was it like being like the runt of the litter, being the smallest in the room, but knowing how much it was going to help you going forward?
Yeah, no, that's it. Like when I first started, I didn't really I didn't really enjoy the grappling as much. I preferred, like when I was doing the teens classes, I preferred the striking side of things. And I came in, and the first adult class I did was the jiu-jitsu class. And obviously I was like small and skinny. And I found that I had to be very fast to stop myself from getting held down by everyone else. So I just like developed like not the most technical, but just scrambling and being faster than them. And then that helped, that elevated me there. And then I started being able to actually put skill into that as well. And then I started having more success. And that's it. Seeing the success against adults and like higher grade in jiu-jitsu and stuff like that at such a young age was definitely like, it showed me that, oh yeah, no, maybe I can do something with this.
Yeah, that's it. And then you went down the standard route of jiu-jitsu comps into clubs. I think you've probably done like more into clubs than anyone else who's ever been alive. You like any opportunity to compete, you're there. What were your experiences like of like your first few competitions, first times being on the mats or in a cage at an inter club? What was that like?
Yeah, that's I've been really looking forward to do the inter club. So the first inter club I did was actually with my dad's gym. My dad's an MMA coach, so I was with him at the time when I did that. I had a couple jiu-jitsu comps I had done, but stepping into the cage for the first time, I loved it. I was well excited to like finally actually be in a cage, fighting someone, even though obviously it's like skill based and stuff like that. But it was such a buzz that I got, and then from then for like the next year and a half, I was just trying to do in the clubs like every 2 months or so. Like I was in there quite a lot. So
yeah, no, I remember. So I'm just adjusting my laptop slightly. Yeah, I remember being out all the time, constantly just beating the shit out of poor kids who literally just were hopeless, had no chance of defending against you. And as I said, you sort of built a reputation on the circuit and mostly in our local area amongst our gym and also other gyms of being a really bright prospect. And the first sort of real opportunity you had to show that was you had a junior MMA fight in December 2024. And for one thing, I can't believe that was 18 months ago, pretty much.
that's it. Yeah, that's
That is
so
terrifying. But you went into that fight, and I think all of us basically just assumed, like, oh yeah, Ryder's going to win. But that was the first time you'd got in a cage truly to have a fight. Like, headshots constantly, like no added rules like you have in the interclubs, which for reference, for anyone who's listening doesn't know, there's no like head strikes on the ground. You can only strike to the body on the ground. There's lots of submissions that aren't allowed, and you're not supposed to try as hard as you can on the feet.
It's controlled power. Yeah.
So now you're competing, and you found out afterwards, I believe, you actually were competing against a lad who had multiple amateur MMA fights, not junior MMA fights as well.
That's it. Yeah. So he had an amateur MMA fight, and he had lots and lots. Well, he had quite a few junior fights as well. So yeah, he was a lot more experienced than me. But obviously, as you said, that was the first time I was like properly in a fight, I think, and it definitely got to me. Like I had a big adrenaline dump, and I was a lot more nervous than I had been previously, like on the interclubs and stuff. And it was a very close fight. Didn't go my way, but since then, it's been like, oh no, like there's no reason to be so stressed out about it and stuff like that. And since then, I've had a lot of success in competitions, so that was a good thing for me. That.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing you've definitely had since then is a lot of success in competitions. So moving on from that junior MMA fight, I think you really got your teeth sunk into knowing like you wanted to have an amateur fight as soon as possible.
Yeah.
After finding out you weren't allowed to have one until you were 18, so at this point you're looking at a full 12 months. Yeah. We decided to get you some striking matches to really improve your striking. You're a very talented young grappler, and I'd say at that point your striking was so far behind your grappling, although now we've massively closed the gap.
Yeah.
But we had an 8-week training camp, which was pretty much exclusively boxing for your first boxing fight, on a local show against a decent lad called James from a gym where I also do a bit of coaching. Talk to me about what that experience was like, honing in on the side of your game that was definitely a big weakness at the time.
Yeah, no, it was. I really enjoyed it because, as you said, it was such a change from, like, obviously I always did striking and stuff like that, but like taking me fully out of my comfort zone. I wasn't even training any grappling at that time, and it was just pure boxing for 8 weeks. And no, it was great. I learned a lot of new skills. I learned how to skip, which I can do now. So that's
and you've made it. You've made it now. That's it.
That's it. I've made it. I can skip. Not as well as you there. But it elevated my skills so much. And after that boxing match and then the other striking bouts have done my confidence in my striking and just my skill in general with my striking is so much better now.
Yeah, that's it. So in that boxing match, you got a very, very dominant, unanimous decision. Didn't lose a second of one round. Got one of the coldest photos of Ryder Hay's coldest moments. That one's going to stay forever. I'll insert it on the video here. If you're on Spotify and you're listening, Ryder basically came back after round 2. He looked at me and screamed in my face, "I've won. I've won." And he just kept saying, "I've won 2 rounds, like I've won." And I was like, all right, yeah, fair. There wasn't really a lot to work on. So I said, just go and stand in the middle of the ring. So with about 30 seconds left of the 1-minute break, Ryder went and stood in the center of the ring and did not move for 30 seconds. He stood bolt upright like Alex Pereira, just staring at this poor lad in the corner. And it was unbelievable.
That's all that came into my head. You were like standing in the middle of the cage. I was like, yeah, I'm doing it. And I was just cold face.
That's it. And there's some great photos of it and a good video as well. You then went into a K1 bout, which again, very dominant, unanimous decision against a very good kid. That kid was a much tougher fight, but again, it was dominant. The massive improvement of striking shone through in that one. And then we moved on to much more recently, just after your 18th birthday, having your first amateur fight.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. The whole experience from the build-up, the cut and weight for the first time, the turning up at the venue, all of these things that, although you've experienced them before, when you know it's your first real amateur fight, it's a very different experience.
Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, it's something I've been looking forward to for so long now. So leading up to it on that fight week, I was just telling myself, like, I just enjoy this, experience it. You know, you're only going to have your first proper fight one time. You know, you're only going to get to experience that once. So just enjoy it all. Try and enjoy the weight cut. I mean, I didn't have to cut too much weight, so it wasn't that bad. And then just enjoy the weigh-ins, enjoy the fight day, enjoy the medicals, enjoy going out for some food beforehand, warming up, and just having fun the whole time. And that's exactly what I did. And I went out there and I felt calm. I felt happy. I was excited to be in there. And I think that showed in my performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it did. Again, I keep saying it, another dominant, unanimous decision victory. Didn't lose a second of any round on the feet, in the grappling, nothing. But it was a particularly dominant grappling display. He was a very wriggly kid. He wouldn't quite let you pin him down for submissions or anything like that. But you were well dominant. Are there any points during that, because you were very composed as well, is there any points during that where you were actually thinking, or did you find you were just going through the motions and processes were just happening?
You know, that's it. In the first round, I think, like, I was listening to Webby's corner advice a bit more, and I was thinking about things. Where as it started getting into the later rounds, especially the third round, I took him down quite early in that round, and from there it was just like it just felt I didn't really have to think about anything. I was just one thing to another. I take him down. He starts getting up. I'm on the hips, pulling him back down. I get on top. he moves, I transition. It was just flowing so nicely that I didn't have to think about it, and I felt content in my head, just like with the boxing match. After the first 2 rounds, I was like, well, I know I won this, so let's just put a stamp on it. I wanted to get the finish. As you said, he was a very wriggly opponent. He didn't settle. He didn't settle at all. He kept moving, so I didn't manage to get the finish. But by that point, I was just like, I want to keep dominant. You know, I don't want to like get off the gas. And it was all flowing perfectly for me.
Yeah, and we should mention as well, like your opponent was 2-0 going into that.
Yeah.
It's your debut. He was pretty much the only person we could find to fight you. He's 2-0.
People turned it down.
Yeah, slightly older than you as well, and a good lad. You know, I'm sure he's going to win a lot more fights coming off the back of that. So it was a very, very impressive debut. But you're out again, no rest for the wicked. You were straight back in training camp days later, less than a couple of days later.
I had 1 day off.
1 day off, yeah. I think you were instructed to take longer and you said no. So you're out on April the 18th on Cage Warriors Southeast, which is our local show. It's about a mile and a half from where I'm recording this now. And you're fighting Taekwon Lee, who is predominantly a kickboxer from what people know about him. He's won belts on quite good promotions for kickboxing. Just talk to me about the fight, your preparations, and how you're feeling for it.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this. Obviously, as you said, he's quite a high-level kickboxer, so it should be a good matchup. I look forward to fighting like someone with quite a bit of experience who's at like a good level as well. Obviously, I think the styles match up quite good, and I'm looking forward to going in there and figuring him out, putting on a good performance again. I'm definitely looking for the finish this time. I want the finish. I've had a couple of decisions in my last few fights, so I'm definitely looking for that. But I'm buzzing to be on a local show now. I'm not having to travel too far for the weigh-ins or anything like that. I can go and do medicals, come home and chill for a bit. So looking forward to that. It's going to be a good night. It's going to be a very good night.
Yeah, absolutely. So Cage Warriors Southeast, obviously, is very local to us, but it's also a great feeder into the Cage Warriors ecosystem as well. So this being your debut on Cage Warriors Southeast, I imagine you're going to sell a lot of tickets. You're going to build some real traction on that platform. And we've seen over the last few years some very good fighters come off Cage Warriors Academy into Cage Warriors and even onto the UFC. As recently as Chanel Dyer, who fought on UFC London just last weekend. Just talk to me about what your sort of, not your plan, but how you see the next 2 to 3 years panning out for yourself. Yeah,
100%. The Cage Warriors Academy is a great show. Up there, it's the best amateur show we have, especially in the South, but probably in the country. I'd say it's a very good high level show. Lots of people, as you said, have come through. You know, Cage Warriors champions, UFC fighters, and that. So it's a good show. I'm looking forward to showing my skills on there. I want to be competing as much as possible, so I will be fighting on other shows over these next few years. But I definitely want to make a mark on this show, win a title on here, and do like the majority of my fights on Cage Warriors Academy because of that more prestige that it has.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that is one thing that we know we never have to worry about with you is how much activity you're going to get, because you want to fight constantly. So where do you see yourself after this fight? Win, lose or draw? How quickly do you want to get back out?
I want to get back out straight away. I don't think. I mean, I'll say I want to take a little bit of time off, but I probably won't. I know I have some grappling competitions lined up in the next couple of months as well, so I want to get a few of them off, and then. But yeah, no, as soon as possible. If it's a quick fight, if it's done quick, maybe even May, I could fight on the Bloodline show that I fought on last time because we've got a few of our guys fighting on there. So. We'll see. We'll just see what happens. But yeah, I definitely want to be out there again as soon as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. So The other thing, as well as being one of the best prospects in amateur MMA at the moment, that you're very good at is you might be the biggest encyclopedia on MMA that I know. I try my best to keep up, and then work gets a bit busy and I miss a few bits and bobs and I miss some social media posts. And then you just rattle off every single fight that's happened in the time that I've missed it. And I'm like, oh, I'm caught up.
So you don't need to use social media.
No, exactly. I'm like, I'll see Ryder every Wednesday for our session and he can just tell me what's coming up and what's been and gone. So I thought, obviously you're quite early on in your career, so there's only so much we can talk about right now. I want to keep getting you on as your career develops and as your amateur fights come and go. But one thing I do want to talk to you about is the state of mixed martial arts as a sport at the moment. So I thought we might as well talk about the card that's just happened at the weekend, the Adesanya versus Pyfer card. So Adesanya obviously got stopped. I think most of us assumed if he was going to lose that fight, which I thought was a very winnable fight, he was going to call it a day and knock it on the head. But that doesn't seem like it's going to happen. So quickly just talk to me about the fight and talk to me about next matchups for Adesanya and Joey Pyfer.
Yeah, well, like you said, I thought it was a very winnable fight for him, and for how it was going in the first round, it looked to be that way. But obviously, I guess he made some bad choices in the second round. But Joe Pyfer, like, if he was going to win, it was going to be fight by finish. That's what was going to happen. So he's right. He'll be right at the top now. So what was he ranked before that? Like
4.
Number 6? 4.
Four,
okay.
I think. Super high.
So who's at the top there? There's a bunch of good matchups at the top for him now. You got RDR's moving up, so you've got Anthony Hernandez. That'd be a good matchup there.
That is a good fight.
Yeah. There's a bunch of good matchups at the top, but now that Imovov's not fighting for the title, they could make an exciting matchup there again. I think they'll try and push Joe Pyfer quite hard because he's exciting. He's good on the mic and stuff like that. So I don't think they're going to keep him there fighting down. I think they're going to give him someone high up as soon as they can.
100%. I mean, he was 14th going into this.
That's it, yeah.
So pushing up, Adesanya, number 4. I'm just looking at the rankings now. So let's say he slots in at 4, which I imagine he will.
Yeah.
The only people above him are Strickland, Imavov, and Duplessis, and obviously Hamzat.
Yeah.
But that's whether if he's fighting
Duplessis
up, Duplessis would be a great fight.
Yeah.
I think, and Duplessis is booked at the moment. Who's he just get announced to fight?
Who did
Brendan Allen?
No, Brendan Allen got announced to fight against Edmund Shabazian.
Yes, I remember thinking it was a weird fight. Yeah, you're right.
I think Duplessis is still without a fight. I think he was talking about fighting Bahia, which would also be a good fight. So it depends what they decide on there.
Yeah, I feel like he's booked. Duplessis.
I don't know. I don't think he is. I don't think he is.
We'll come back to it. But anyway, so Joe Pyfer, who are your Hunter Campbell, your Sean Shelby, who are you matching Joe Pyfer with next?
I think Duplessis would be a great fight. 100%.
I do. I agree. I think that is the fight.
Yeah, I think that's the fight to make. I didn't even think about that one at first, but stylistically, that is probably the most exciting fight they can make right there. 100%.
What about for Adesanya?
I think he should retire now. But if he was going to fight someone else, there's a few matchups. Like Christian Leroy Duncan could be a good matchup. Again, stylistically exciting. He's ranked number 12 now or something from his fight.
12.
That's an exciting matchup there. That good fight for Adesanya. Great fight for Leroy Duncan, obviously. So that could be interesting.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's the real sort of shame of Adesanya was picking up losses. Obviously, he lost 3 in a row, but it was against the best fighters in the world.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
you know, his fight against Duplessis when he failed to regain the title was such a good fight.
It was a great fight.
You know, he lost
It
to
was
Sean
very
Strickland.
close.
He got lulled to sleep a little bit, but then this one, it was like, my brother's got a really good phrase, and he used it while we were watching the fight. He's like, snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. He had the fight won, and then just stopped fighting and got beat. It was so strange. I think, the Leroy Duncan fight would be good. And then other than that, there's some matchups in here that are not great for him. I mean, Anthony Hernandez.
There's a lot of scary people in that division now.
Yeah. You got Gregory Rodriguez.
That's
That would be quite a fun
that's
one.
one of those. That's a winnable matchup for him. But it just depends how he chooses to fight, obviously.
Yeah, 100%. So the other thing, when we first started just before we started recording, you started trying to talk to me about this fight, and I said, no, wait, don't speak to me about this just yet. So I want to talk to you about the Alexa Grasso and Macy Barber knockout.
I woke up.
At least you woke up, because Macy Barber, oh my God. When I was watching that, I was watching it after the fact. I was watching it the next morning, not knowing the result.
Yeah,
and I was sat there and was
like,
I know it's recorded on my TV, whatever. I was like, if she's dead, surely this isn't still live on TV. Like, surely. And it kept cutting back to her on the floor, just glazed. And I was like, this could be really bad. And the cameraman was just zooming in on her face. And I was like, oh my God, this is brutal. But anyway, you woke up.
I woke up, opened up my phone. The first thing I saw was that, and I was like, "Oh my God, I've just witnessed a murder!" Like this, and that jumping on the sub straight away like that. I mean, that's how she caught Shevchenko, was just snatching up that rear naked.
First thing I thought.
Great at that, but it wasn't needed there.
No, it definitely wasn't, and it was a scary one. I actually think it might be the scariest knockout, call it a knockout, that I've ever seen. You know, especially considering,
put down as a knockout. So
the ref wasn't late. The ref got on it straight away.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, sometimes you watch them and the ref comes in late, and you're like, "Oh, that was a scary one," but the ref sort of let it go too long.
That's it. It stopped at a perfect time, but it was still that. That's a bad one.
It was a bad one. It's one of them ones that you look at and you go, like, fucking hell, like, this sport is brutal. I understand when people say it's brutal, and you sort of defend it and you're like, nah, it's not, it's an art form, and then you see things like that and you go, ooh, maybe they're right. But so, okay, off the back of that, Alexa Grasso versus Shevchenko.
Yeah, there's no other fights to make there, is there? But
no, I mean, the people who are above Grasso are Blanchfield, Manon Fiorot, and Natalia Silva.
Yeah, no, Natalia Silva. That's that should be the next one.
Yeah, I think Silva will fight Shevchenko.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't be surprised if Grasso doesn't fight again and then fights the winner.
That's it, 100%. It would after that. I don't think, like I said, one more and then she would be back up there for that title shot conversation, because her last fight was that loss to Silva, and that was quite not the most exciting fight. That was just a decision victory there. But Silva should get the title shot. She'll do quite well. I think she's very good. But then I think Grasso is after that is back up there, definitely in talks for that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, after a victory like that, especially, like Macy Barber's ranked number 5, so big, getting a knockout like that, one of the best in the history of the sport, and having the history of Shevchenko anyway, I think she'll be back up there, like, pretty lively, to be honest. But so one of the things me and you have been talking about a lot in our sessions before we knew the entire cards and all of this was, one, the White House card, which got announced like a little while ago now, and now the Netflix card. So I want to talk to you about how the two cards compare to each other, fights you're looking forward to, fights you're not looking forward to, and might as well stick some predictions in there as well.
What do you want to talk about first? Netflix or White House?
Let's do one thing at a time. So we'll come to predictions later on. Let's just talk about the quality of the cards.
Yeah. Well, both cards are solid cards. The Netflix card is that's going to be very exciting. Lots of exciting matchups, and even on the prelims, you've got Makayev versus Moraes, and you've got former Bellator champs, you've got former KSW champs. There's some exciting matchups on there, and with the card it's competing against with the UFC is the Arnold Allen card in May. So it's definitely gonna get a lot more views than that, I think. It's a great card. They're doing brilliant card. And then same with the White House card. I don't think it's a bad card. It's just not what everyone expected. It's like what we were speaking about the other day. Everyone on there is someone you want to be on there, but they're not fighting who you want them to be fighting.
100%. So, if we run through that, you've got Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. I think me and you are big Arman Sarukian fans.
Yes.
If it's not Ilia versus Islam, it should have been Ilia versus Arman.
Yeah, that's the only one you can reason with because of the interim champ. But yeah, it should have been Arman, 100%.
Yeah, but I think we both agree Gaethje shouldn't even be interim champ. No. That's the thing. It's just all come about wrong for that one. Pereira versus Cyril Gane. Pereira's moving up to heavyweight. I want to see him against John Jones or Tom Aspinall. Those are the two.
It's a great fight, but it's not what you there's not what everyone wanted. Like the John Jones fight would have been the one to make headline of that card. But Gane versus Pereira is a great fight, and it's a difficult one for Pereira. Gane's movement's great. Its range is great. It's gonna be a tough matchup. Pereira's power will carry over, so it's going to be a fun one to see.
He is huge.
He is huge at the moment. That's
it. I know everyone says it, and we said it at the time. How the fuck did that geezer make middleweight?
It's insane. It doesn't make sense. I know.
If you said right, there's going to be a free weight world champion, probably the last three weight classes you would expect that person to be in would be middle, light, heavy, and heavy.
Yeah. 100%.
So, for reference, anyone who's more boxing orientated, in MMA, the weight classes go 185, 205, and then over 205 to 260. That's a big old jump.
That's a big jump.
Even 185 to 205, that's 9 kilos. That's 20 pounds.
And it's not like he's jumping that and he's undersized. Like you said, he's looking huge at the moment. Yeah. He is heavyweight size.
It's unbelievable. So this is his opportunity, although it's an interim belt, to become the first free weight world champion. So let's run through the rest of the card first, and then we'll come back and we'll do a few early predictions, and then we'll talk again closer to the time, and we'll see how we feel then. So moving on, you got Sean O'Malley against Ayman Zahabi. This is another one. Sean O'Malley, I want to see him against Corey Sandhagen.
I can't believe they didn't make that. That was there to make. Sandhagen doesn't have a fight. He's been calling him out for ages. O'Malley has shown interest, I think, in fighting him. That was there to make, and it would have been such a big fight for the card. Everyone loves Sandhagen. Everyone loves O'Malley. It's an exciting matchup. There's still a good fight. It's very winnable for O'Malley, I think, and I think that's probably the reason why it's happening. But they had a big missed opportunity with the Sandhagen fight.
No, I agree. I think for O'Malley, it should have either been, even from a commercial standpoint, Sandhagen or Piotr Jan. I understand Piotr Jan's had surgery, whatever. That's fine. That one wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Where somebody pulled Zahabi from, I don't get it. I know he's got a long win streak. I know it's a very winnable fight for Sean O'Malley, but come on, man. This just isn't the fight that people wanted to see. Do you know what I mean?
And there's the potential there for the huge upset. If Zahabi
100%.
goes out and smashes O'Malley, like no, the UFC doesn't want that to happen. Fans will be very disappointed. Whereas if Sandhagen went out, and I think Sandhagen would beat O'Malley, but it's not the same type of thing. There's not a big upset there. It's the
No.
UFC won't mind Sandhagen winning that.
No, 100%. So working our way down, you got Maurizio Ruffi versus Michael Chandler. I think this one's like fair enough. It's not ideal because obviously you had like Chandler McGregor was there. McGregor was never going to be on this card, so fair enough. I mean, could you have done a better fight at lightweight for Chandler? Potentially, but they're both very exciting.
That's it. It's probably one of the most exciting matchups they could have put together for Chandler as well. I don't think it wouldn't have made sense for Chandler to fight anyone else. That would have been an exciting fight. It's winnable for Chandler if he sticks to his like to what he's best at and goes forward and wrestles him. It could be a very winnable fight for him. But I don't think that's going to happen.
He's not going to do that.
I think they're going to trade on the feet.
Yeah, he's not going to do that, and he's probably going to get stopped in a couple of rounds. After watching Ruffi's last fight against Fiziev, like I'm not convinced Chandler sees round 3 of this one. No. And I like Chandler a lot, and I think he's tough as fuck. But that right hand that Ruffi hit Fiziev with was something else.
Yeah, and that's Fiziev, and I know he's at the bottom of the division now, but I still think he's up there 100% still. He's like ranked like 13 now, I think, something like that. It's quite low, but he's up there. He's one of the best in that division. He's just had, obviously, he's had the loss to Ruffi and Gaethje, which they're not easy matchups there.
No, definitely not. On short notice as well for both fights.
But so I think if he could do that, someone like Fiziev, Chandler's in for a tough night.
Yeah, 100%. And then the last 2 on the card is Bo Nickel versus Carl Dorcas and Diego Lopez versus Steve Garcia. Bo Nickel was always going to be on there. He had to be on there. The Carl Dorcas is a bit of a rogue shout, but I suppose it's just, they've given him a very, very winnable fight. I
don't think it would have really mattered who they put Nickel against, because Covington was never going to happen. No. That was never going to be a fight that got made. So it doesn't. They want to have Bo Nickel on there. It doesn't really matter who they put him against. Carl Dorcas is a very exciting fighter, so I don't mind that one.
No, and then you've got Diego Lopez, Steve Garcia. Super rogue. Number 2 versus number 9. I don't know if it's because Steve Garcia is American. Like, is that what it had to be? Like, I really don't know. But, yeah, that's the card. That's the card.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is I want to run through each fight as we go, and compare it to the Netflix card.
Yeah, okay.
So from top of the bill all the way to the Netflix, all the way to the bottom, and we're just going to keep score. So, main event, Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano, Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje.
Topuria versus Gaethje.
Yeah, 1-0 UFC. Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gane, Ngannou versus Philippe Lenz.
Pereira versus Gane 100%. That's not in question, that one. 2-0
UFC. Sean O'Malley versus Eamon Zahabi, Nate Diaz versus Mike Perry.
Definitely Diaz versus Perry.
2-1. You've got Lorenz Larkin versus Jason Jackson versus Mauricio Ruffi versus Michael Chandler.
Yeah, Chandler versus Ruffi is much more exciting of a fight. Both of them are, like we said, they're just insanely entertaining fighters, so definitely that one.
So that would be 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 3-1. Yeah, 3-1. Bo Nickel versus Carl Dorcas versus, I believe it's Parnasse, something like that, versus Kenneth Cross.
That is a interesting fight. That Parnasse, or however you pronounce his name, he's a big prospect, but the name isn't there compared to the UFC fight. So yeah, Bo Nickel the bare knuckle fight is definitely more.
So that's 4-1. Going into the final, Diego Lopez versus Steve Garcia, or Junior Dos Santos versus Despania.
Yeah, Lopez versus Garcia. That's a good fight. Junior Dos Santos is 43, 42. I don't know. He's so I don't think that's as intriguing.
No,
a
and
matchup.
Despania's really not been that impressive in MMA.
No, not at all.
You know, like he looked great
If
in
he
karate
loses
combat.
this fight to 40, however old, to Santos, it's not a good showing for him.
No, I mean, you know, he's 5-2.
Yeah.
Like, it's not been a great start to his MMA career as such. But anyway, so I believe that finished at 5-1. 1, 2,
I think
3,
so, yeah.
4, 5, 6. 5-1 it was.
Yeah.
The best fight, in my opinion, or at least top 2, which is Muhammad Mokaev versus Adriano Moraes.
I think
it isn't on the top 6 fights, so it didn't make it head-to-head. But I think that is a phenomenal fight.
Same. I think that beats a lot of the fights on the White House card. I'm really intrigued by that fight. I'm interested in that.
And that, I think, is the most exciting thing about Netflix getting into MMA is it opens the door up for these free agents who, you know, why Moraes isn't in the UFC, I don't know. But it gives this opportunity for these free agents to have these huge fights that are actually like main card worthy on the UFC.
100%. Mokaev and Moraes are high level, like top level flyweights. They should both be in the UFC. Maybe whoever wins this one, maybe it might pique their interest. I doubt it will. But that's a very, very good fight.
It is, and you know, I do hope we see Muhammad Mokaev back in the UFC. Particularly, the division at the moment is good, but having him back in there would be massive. So I hope he gets the win. It's a hard fight. I hope he gets the win, and I hope he gets back in the UFC later on this year because I want to see some of those fights.
It would mix things up quite well. The top of the flyweight division is exciting at the moment, so just chucking in another big name in there would just add to it because it was only like 6 months ago when everyone was saying, "Oh, everyone's fighting the same people and the flyweight's boring," and now you've got a lot of top guys there. You've got Van, Tyra, Kopp, Horiguchi, Pantoja still, Lonnie Kavanaugh now. Just 100%. Throw Mokaev in there as well. That's even better.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at that division, it's so talent dense. It's actually unbelievable. And I think that being the smaller guys, that's what they need. They need as many names as possible, all just scrapping left, right, and centre.
100%.
You know, like fights like when Joshua Van took the Roy Val fight on short notice. That division needs things like that. It can't be stagnant because when it is, people lose interest because they don't want to watch the small guys fight anyway. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, it's got to be exciting. You got to put having the rematches and stuff isn't always a bad thing because you're getting like you watch like Moreno versus Figueiredo, the 4 fights, all exciting because these guys will always put on exciting fights, and you just want them to fight each other as much as you can. 100%.
Yeah, 100%. So fingers crossed Mokaev picks up the victory and gets back in there. You know, he's only 25. He's got all the time in the world. I'm sure he will get back in the UFC at some point, and I hope he does. The rest of the card, there's not too much going on. You got Alex Pereira's sister, Aline, is on there. I'm assuming the main and co-main, you're going for Ronda and Francis.
Yeah.
What about Nate Diaz, Mike Perry? I'm interested.
That's that's going to be a tough one. I think I'm going to give it to Mike Perry purely. You know, Diaz has the grappling advantage, but he's a bit older. They've both been out of MMA for a while now, but I think when you look at the fights that Diaz has had recently compared to how active like Perry for that like year. He had like 4 bare knuckle fights or something like that in like not very long, and he's been very active and still fighting like high level fights, I think that's going to pay off for him. I think it's going to be a scrap. But I think
I do. That's one I'm not sure about, because although Mike Perry's been very active,
he's been
actually
away from
know
MMA for a lot longer.
yeah, and how good his striking actually is compared to Nate Diaz's. Like, I know he is having striking matches, but if you look at, like, I know it's not the best metric, but both of their performances against Jake Paul, Nate Diaz was like competitive. He looked like he didn't give a fuck, but he was still competitive. Mike Perry got beat up.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's it. But it's hard to. Do you want to base it off of a Jake Paul fight, or do you? But do you disregard that now? I'm not sure. Like,
it's hard. I
it's
think Mike Perry
intriguing.
is so good at bare knuckle fighting.
Yeah,
he's just made for it. No, and I imagine he'll go straight back to it from this.
100%. Yeah.
They've just obviously thrown an unbelievable amount of money at him. Fair enough, but I don't know. I think Nate Diaz needs to win for the sport in general. Reason being, Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor is still very much a doable fight, 100%. Either inside the UFC or on Netflix, depending on how much the UFC are willing to pay for it. But if Conor McGregor can get out of his contract, I think that happens on Netflix if Nate Diaz wins this fight.
It was only last week, though, even if McGregor stays on his contract, it was only last week or something that Dana White was talking about having Nate Diaz back in the UFC. So that's 100%. Still, either way, whatever route it takes, if Nate Diaz wins that fight, and that's especially on Netflix, that will be big. Like
it will be. I genuinely think, if that fight happens on Netflix, that is the biggest, most watched, I want to say combat sports event. I don't want to go as far as to say sport event. It's the most watched sporting event of all time.
Definitely. Yeah, it'll 100% be up there. Combat sports, definitely. Like
100%. Combat sports, it wouldn't even be close on Netflix, because there's no pay-per-view. You're already tied into your contract. You might as well watch it even if you're not that fussed. It would be unbelievable.
Still have the potential to make, you've got the other free agents. There's the potential to make some good fights for the prelims, but you wouldn't need a solid prelim card then. You just need some fights on there. But we spoke about this as well. Like, Netflix isn't going to need to put on cards like every month for, like, they need 2 to 3 a year, and they can make that happen. There's more than enough, like, opportunity, more than enough fighters who would be willing to go over there, get a big paycheck, get lots of people watching them. So that
Absolutely.
Would be a huge card.
Yeah, 100%. I'm so excited about what Netflix do in the sport. I think that's the thing. Like, we just went through, and the UFC White House card absolutely pissed all over this card when you actually break it down. But I'm more excited for the Netflix card.
That's it. Yeah, it's when you put them head to head. Obviously, the UFC fights, they're going to have the bigger names in that, but there's just different excitement that's coming with the Netflix thing. It's new. You've got the big names at the top. It's different. It's exciting.
Yeah, 100%. So with that, mate, I've enjoyed going around the houses of MMA with you there. And like I say, I want to get you back on as soon as your next fight is done, so we can talk about through that experience, that result, where you're going to go next, and also go through the next batch of MMA news as well.
Yes.
But I want to say thank you very much, and I want to finish with the same question we ask everyone to finish. 12 months' time, 365 days from right now recording this interview, where is Ryder Hey?
In a year's time, I want to have a lot more competitions behind me. I want to have 4 to 5 MMA fights this year. I want to have some more kickboxing matches. I want to be doing grappling comps. As we spoke about earlier, I just want to be as active as possible. So this time next year, I see myself having an amateur title. I see myself having a lot more experience behind me, and just continuing building on that momentum.
Perfect. Perfectly put. Well, thank you very much, bro, for coming on the Fight Game
Thank you very
podcast.
much.
It's been good. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, thank you very much.
See you later on, bro. Thank you.